After Prometheus brought sacred fire to humanity, the world was never the same again. People flourished, fire became the heart of their lives. But on Olympus, this act was seen very differently. Zeus, lord of thunder and lightning, did not see kindness or heroism in Prometheus' deed. To him, it was defiance, a challenge to heavenly authority. Gods had always been separated from mortals by an unbridgeable gap. Now that boundary had been broken. In the throne hall of Olympus, all the gods gathered. Their eyes, like stars, shone in the darkness. The atmosphere was tense. Zeus rose, and his voice, like rolling thunder, made even the mightiest tremble. He declared, "Prometheus has broken the divine law. He gave to humans what belongs only to the gods. His act is a betrayal of the heavenly order. And for this, he must be punished." The gods remained silent. None dared oppose the thunderer. Yet in their eyes flickered a shadow of compassion. They knew Prometheus had not acted out of malice. He was the one who always sought to help humanity, even at the cost of his own freedom. But Zeus was unyielding. In his heart grew a plan for a punishment that would serve not only as retribution but also as a warning to all who might dare to challenge his power. Prometheus was summoned to Olympus. He was placed before Zeus' throne. He stood tall, head held high, without fear. His eyes burned with the same fire he had gifted to mankind. Zeus asked, "Do you realize what you have done?" Prometheus answered firmly, "I gave humans a chance to survive. I gave them hope." His words rang out as defiance, proof that he felt no regret. And at that very moment, Zeus made his final decision. The punishment would be terrible and endless. This moment became the beginning of one of the most brutal punishments in all of Greek mythology. Zeus had no intention of simply throwing Prometheus into a dungeon or stripping him of his powers. His punishment was meant to be a symbol, a lesson for both gods and mortals alike. He ordered that the Titan be chained to a rock in a distant and savage land, atop the peaks of the Caucasus mountains. These mountains rose so high their summits touched the heavens, while their slopes vanished into seas of clouds. There, amid winds and lightning, Prometheus was to spend eternity. By Zeus' command, two giant jailers, forged from unbreakable metal, led the Titan eastward. The journey was long and grueling, yet Prometheus did not resist. His steps were steady, his gaze filled with dignity. He knew that suffering awaited him, but he felt no regret for his deed. For he had seen that humankind now possessed light. Along the way, he passed through villages of men. They looked upon him with awe and fear, unable to understand why their benefactor was bound in chains. Children stretched out their hands toward him, and the elders bowed their heads as if before a saint. Prometheus smiled at them, trying to show that he was unafraid, that his sacrifice was not in vain. And though his heart ached with sorrow, he knew each of their smiles was worth all the torment to come. At last, the Caucasus rose before him. Its peaks remained snow-capped even in summer. Winds howled so fiercely they seemed like the voices of the gods themselves. It was a place cut off from the world, wild and merciless. And it was here that Zeus decreed the imprisonment of the one who dared defy his will. When they reached the summit, Zeus' command was carried out. Iron shackles wrapped around Prometheus' arms and legs, biting deep into his flesh. His back was pressed against the cold rock, and his body was stretched so tightly that he could not move. Strong as the earth itself, the chains gleamed beneath the rays of the sun. Prometheus looked upward, toward the sky where eagles soared. His eyes blazed, as if the embers of the very fire he had given to mankind still smoldered within them. He did not scream, nor did he beg for mercy. His silence was more terrible than any words could be. It was the silence of a hero, prepared to endure all for the sake of his choice. Zeus had decreed that the torment would be eternal. Each day, an eagle, messenger of the thunderer himself, was to descend upon Prometheus. The bird would tear at his flesh, devouring his liver, and as night fell, the wounds would heal, only for the suffering to begin anew at dawn. This was an endless punishment, meant to break the Titan. But Zeus had miscalculated, for Prometheus did not break. His pain became his strength. With each passing day of agony, he stood as a living testament to his unyielding spirit. The wind tossed his hair, rain washed away his blood, snow fell upon his shoulders. Nature became his only witness. And though the whole world knew of his suffering, only the sky and the mountains bore silent witness to the true scale of his torment. The sun rose above the Caucasus mountains, casting its rays upon the snow-capped peaks. The sky was clear and blue, yet this beauty concealed the horror that was about to begin. From afar came a piercing cry. It was Zeus' eagle, enormous, black, with silver talons and wings that blotted out the light. It was no mere bird, but the embodiment of divine punishment, created for the sole purpose of keeping Prometheus in torment. The eagle drew closer, each beat of its wings echoing like the drums of war. It alighted upon the rock, its eyes gleaming with a cold, merciless fire. Prometheus did not turn away, did not beg for mercy. His chest rose with steady breaths, as though he were preparing himself for battle. Then the eagle plunged its beak into his flesh. The cry that burst from the Titan's lips echoed far across the mountains. It was not only a cry of pain, it was the voice of all mortals for whom he suffered. His liver was torn apart piece by piece, and every moment stretched into an eternity. Yet Prometheus did not break. His eyes remained proud. He endured, knowing that his sacrifice had given humanity a new life. Evening brought silence. The eagle flew away, sated. His wounds knit together, his flesh renewed, as though nature itself refused to allow him death. And so he remained, waiting for a new day, knowing the torment would begin again. But each night became for him a time of reflection, a time to remember those to whom he had given fire. Days dragged on, blending into an endless chain of suffering. Each morning, as the first rays of the sun touched the cliffs, a familiar cry pierced the sky. The eagle returned again and again. Its shadow fell upon the earth, and even the stones seemed to tremble at the sight. Each arrival was the same, yet somehow unique. The eagle always tore at the same part of Prometheus' body, his liver. And each time, the pain was different, unlike the day before. The Titan felt his body being ripped apart, life leaving him with every ravenous bite. But at night, his flesh renewed itself, and he awoke once more in chains, ready for another day of torment. It was true eternity in suffering. For a mortal, even a single day of such agony would have been unbearable. But Prometheus was a Titan. His strength lay not only in his body but in his spirit. He refused to break. His thoughts always returned to mankind, to those who now warmed themselves at their fires, who no longer feared the darkness. That was his solace, his anchor. Zeus believed that endless torment would shatter Prometheus' will. But the opposite happened. Each day of pain turned him into a symbol of defiance, proof that even the gods cannot subdue one who holds faith and strength of heart. At night, when the eagle flew away and his wounds began to heal, Prometheus was left alone with the silence. The wind whispered ancient tales to him, and the stars above reminded him of eternity. In those hours, he sank into memories. He remembered his kin, the Titans, mighty and proud. He recalled the times when the world had not yet been divided between gods and mortals. But most often, his thoughts returned to humanity. He remembered their first steps with fire in their hands, how they learned to kindle flames, how they danced around the blaze, how they first tasted food cooked over fire. In these visions, he saw the meaning of his suffering. For if his pain meant happiness for others, then he was willing to endure. Yet, at times, sorrow crept into Prometheus' heart. He knew Zeus would not relent. He knew the punishment would last until someone dared to defy the will of the Thunderer himself. And in those moments, he wondered, would a hero ever come to set him free? These thoughts gave him hope. Hope that kept his spirit unbroken, even when his body was torn apart. Deep within the heights of Olympus, amid clouds and radiance, sat Zeus. He watched Prometheus suffering with cold indifference, as though it were nothing more than a spectacle. His throne was adorned with lightning, and every clap of thunder that rolled across the heavens seemed like the echo of his wrath. Zeus believed he had acted justly. To him, Prometheus' defiance was not only a crime but a challenge to the very order established after the victory over the Titans. And though humankind now possessed fire, Zeus saw it as a dangerous spark, one that could grow into the blaze of rebellion. Yet even in his anger, he could not ignore what was happening below. Mortals were growing stronger, uniting, advancing. Around their fires, new tribes were born, villages rose, and confidence kindled in their hearts. The fire gifted by Prometheus had become a symbol of freedom, and Zeus knew it. His fury deepened all the more because the Titan, despite endless torment, remained unbroken. Prometheus did not beg for mercy, did not repent. His silence and his pride were worse to Zeus than any words. It was a silent challenge to the rule of the Thunderer. At the very time Prometheus endured his endless torment, a great transformation was unfolding on Earth. People, who only yesterday had been weak and defenseless, were now mastering new knowledge. Fire had become their true teacher. It taught them to cook food, to harden clay into their first pots, to temper metal for their first tools. In the evenings, tribes gathered around their fires, and the flames became the heart of their lives. Children listened to the elders' stories, tales interwoven with myths of the brave Titan who had stolen a spark from the heavens. Women sang songs, while men prepared for the hunt. All of it was possible because of fire. Humanity began to understand that fire was not only warmth. It was a symbol of power, authority, even magic. It became sacred. By its light they made offerings to the spirits, asking for protection from the elements. Fire united them, transforming scattered nomads into a community. And somewhere far away, in the mountains, the chained Titan could take pride in this. For his suffering had not been in vain. From his torment arose a new world, one in which humans would never again be helpless before the darkness. Despite his pride and unbroken spirit, Prometheus was lonely. His chains bound not only his body but also cut him off from the world. No one came to him, no one could share his pain. Only the mountains, the wind, and the merciless eagle were his companions. In the silence of the nights, he listened to the distant wind echoing between the peaks. The sound resembled voices, but each time he peered into the darkness, there was no one. Only the stars, indifferent and cold, reminded him of the endlessness of time. And yet, in his solitude, he found strength. For each day of suffering was his choice. He could have betrayed his deed, could have begged Zeus for mercy, but he never did. His solitude became a symbol. Even alone against the entire world, a Titan could endure. Thus, Prometheus turned into a legend while still alive. And his torment became not only punishment but also proof that true power lies not in Zeus's thunderbolts, but in an unbroken heart willing to suffer for the sake of others. The cliffs of the Caucasus trembled under the wind that carried with it both cold and the voices of the past. Prometheus sat in chains, his arms bound by links that bit into his flesh, yet his spirit remained unbroken. He gazed upon the endless expanse where clouds drifted over the peaks and understood that even this wind carried lessons for him. Time flowed differently for the Titan. Each day was both an eternity and an instant. Every flight of the eagle, every drop of rain that fell upon his body felt like a new trial. But Prometheus had learned to count these moments not as suffering, but as steps along his path. He felt that his patience and pride strengthened his soul, turning him into a symbol of defiance and strength. Nothing and no one could shatter his inner will. His thoughts always returned to mankind, who now mastered fire, built settlements, and developed crafts. Every achievement of theirs was his reward. And even when the eagle reappeared on the horizon, Prometheus met its gaze without fear. This scene was a silent confrontation of time and endurance. He knew that suffering would not last forever for those who never yield, and that his act would forever change the course of human history. The eagle appeared again, vast and merciless, its wings blotting out the sky. It advanced with the force of a storm, its eyes burning with the fire of wrath. Each beat of its wings thundered like the drums of war echoing through the mountains. Prometheus did not avert his gaze. He faced the bird without fear, though the pain had long since become a part of his very existence. Once more the eagle tore into his flesh, rending it and devouring pieces of his liver. Each attack was not merely agony but a trial of the Titan's will. His heart beat steadily, his mind remained clear, and he understood once again that his endurance was his true strength. Every torment was a symbol of his struggle, for mankind, for the future, for the fire he had given them. Prometheus watched as the sun rose and set, as days gave way to nights, and as humanity grew in knowledge and power. His endurance was already becoming legend while he still lived. The eagle could return as many times as it wished, but the Titan's spirit remained unbroken. His suffering was transformed into a symbol of courage, strength, and sacrifice. Night descended upon the mountains, and the eagle flew away. Prometheus was left alone with the stars. The cold pierced to his bones, yet his heart beat calmly. He knew every torment had meaning, every day of endurance brought him closer to future justice. In the silence of the night, he imagined the people warming themselves by their fires, gathering into communities, building a new world. Each of them lived because of his gift, and even in solitude he felt a bond with humankind, who had become a light in the darkness. These hours of stillness, when his wounds healed and the wind carried the icy voices of the mountains, were for Prometheus a time of reflection and hope. He knew, though his suffering continued, it was not in vain. His endurance, his sacrifice, his unbroken will, these were lessons for both gods and mortals. And as long as he remained steadfast, the spirit of humanity would grow, and the legend of Prometheus would inspire generations. Night fell upon the Caucasus mountains, and Prometheus gazed at the starry sky. Each star seemed to him a witness of his endurance, a small flame against the boundless backdrop of the universe. He imagined the lives of people who now lived thanks to his gift and felt their footsteps echo within his soul. Time lost all meaning. Past and future merged into an endless mosaic of events. Every torment, every suffering blended into one rhythm, within which the patience of the Titan was woven. He understood, his struggle was not only punishment, but a lesson that would remain for both gods and mortals. The small settlements of humans glowed in the darkness, and he felt joy. Every spark of fire reminded him that his sacrifice was not in vain. And even if the eagle returned, even if the pain never ceased, his spirit would remain unbroken. Thunder rolled across the sky, as if Zeus himself had decided to remind the world of his power. Lightning split the darkness, illuminating the rock to which Prometheus was chained. But the Titan did not tremble. His eyes, filled with fire, looked straight into the heavens, accepting every crash of thunder as a challenge. The wind, rain, and cold downpours beat against his body, yet he remained motionless, like the mountain itself. In his thoughts lived the people, those who now shaped their lives, who laughed and built, who dreamed and triumphed. Their light made his pain easier to bear. Each lightning bolt, each rumble, became for him not a threat but proof of his strength. For Zeus could punish the body, but he could not break the spirit. And it was this spirit that made Prometheus a symbol that would live longer than thunder and lightning, in the hearts of those for whom he had stolen the sacred fire. The sun began to rise above the mountains, and night gave way to light. Prometheus sat in chains, yet his spirit shone brighter than any sun. He saw the people who now could warm themselves by the fire, who had learned to cook food, to build settlements, and to dream of the future. His endurance had become a symbol of resilience. His sacrifice stood guard over humanity, watching over their every step. The legend of Prometheus lived in the hearts of people, and even the gods could not deny his influence. Every suffering, every torment, every moment of endurance became part of a great lesson. True strength is not in power and lightning, but in the unbreakable spirit and the desire to help others. And as long as the world exists, the memory of Prometheus will remain in the hearts of people as a symbol of hope, sacrifice, and endless courage.